interesting too. Doctors are blown away by it because a lot of times the communities will have their doctor rounding or their nurse practitioner rounding, and they're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Look, I've got studies, and I'll send you."
Yeah.
And doctors will say, "I would love to have a baby for my office, just to have in the waiting room that says, with a QR code, learn about dementia doll therapy."
Welcome to Aging in Style, the podcast dedicated to celebrating aging and what it takes to do it well. I'm Lori Williams. I'm a certified senior advisor and senior housing expert. In each episode, you'll learn stories of older adults who are thriving in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and in some cases in their hundreds. Whether you're an older adult or the child of an older adult, this podcast is filled with insightful resources, organizations that are doing incredible work, and stories that will inspire you to volunteer, learn, and who knows, maybe even skydive in your golden years. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Aging in Style. We have something so special to share with you today. And I know I say that a lot, but this one just truly touched my heart when I learned about this project, which was maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I actually learned about it, and I just knew I had to talk to the founder and have her on the podcast to talk about this project. So it is called the Grandbaby Project, and it is founded by Tonja Moon, and she's here on the podcast. We're going to talk all about it. But what it is it's a nonprofit focused on making the lives of those suffering from dementia more enjoyable. And Tonja came about doing this through her grandmother. It's totally inspired by her grandmother, and she'll tell the story on the podcast. But, she discovered that we don't really have much in the United States for dementia doll therapy. In other countries, they are working with this and seeing wonderful results. But it's really, has not gone mainstream here in the U.S. So she has seen with her own eyes how beneficial it was to her grandmother and to all the other people whose lives she is touching through this project. And I just think it's going to grow across the United States just in leaps and bounds. So I am so honored to have her as a guest on the podcast and to have her tell her story and talk all about the project. Without further ado, welcome, Tonja.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's just kind of jump into it. And can you just share with us, what is the Grandbaby Project?
Well, it's definitely my passion project. The Grandbaby Project is a nonprofit that I founded a couple of years ago in honor of my grandmother, Ruby. So my grandmother suffered greatly with dementia the last several years of her life. And, at the time, I didn't really know anything about dementia. I did not work in the medical field like I do now. And so it was all very new to us. She was always a very strong, independent, but compassionate person. And dementia affected her in really the opposite manner. She really suffered with lots of agitation, anxiety, tremendous worry. Before we actually moved her into a community, she was convinced there was a man living in the chimney. And she was terrified. And she became very assertive and aggressive. And it became more and more challenging to deal with her behaviors, obviously. And so she moved into a community, and it was not like it is now, where you have these beautiful different memory care communities. When she was alive, she's been gone quite some time, but basically people with dementia or Alzheimer's were put on the long-term hallway in a skilled nursing center, if there was a bed available.
Yeah.
And you paid with their Social Security or privately or whatever, and that was it. And so controlling her behaviors became a real challenge and a real issue. This was also back when medication regulations were a lot looser. So as dementia continues to affect more and more people, we see the regulations around medication tightened up, but we'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, her behaviors became really difficult to control. And we brought her a baby doll with the thought that she loved her grandkids so much. And my mom and aunts and uncles used to always just brag and say, she loves her grandkids way more than she loves us. And I'm not a grandparent, but I've heard, I've heard all about that love, right? The love of a grandchild. And so we could do no wrong. Anyway, we gave her a baby doll just with the thought that it would hopefully offer some type of a distraction We had used the battery operated animals, a little dog, a little cat, and those worked for a while, but you have to really stay on top of the batteries because if batteries go out, at least my experience, my grandmother thought the cat died in her
Oh
bed.
my goodness.
And so
yeah,
it became,
that's horrifying.
We had to go in a whole different direction. So anyway, we got the idea, just bring her a baby doll because she loved her grandkids really, and loved babies. And so everything became about her baby. It really became her purpose. It was how we were able to get her to eat more. It was how she stopped wandering so much. It was how she stopped fighting, the caregivers when they were trying to give her a shower. And it was, Nanny, you have to take a shower because you have to be clean to hold the baby. And so everything in her little bubble of a dementia world started revolving around her baby. And that's really where the whole program launched from. I knew within, several days of her having the baby that there would come a time when I would launch a project like this. My grandmother's, it inspired me in so many different ways. Caring for her and being a part of her dementia journey changed the whole course of my professional career. Now I work in dementia and I work in hospice, and I've done it for almost 15 years. And so I always knew that someday I would launch the project. I was just waiting on the right time. And that time was when my only child left for college. So I was like, well, now I got time. And I didn't know how it would work. I really didn't know how it would go over. I spent about 2 years doing a ton of research. Doll dementia therapy is not very big in the United States. It is huge in the United Kingdom, and it's very big in Australia. It hasn't really made its way to us yet. Although play therapy for children with things like autism is very popular, it hasn't really made its way into the senior world yet. And there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is that it's a negative, that the person with dementia is already living in kind of a broken reality. So why would you encourage or exploit that? The other school of thought, which is my school of thought because I witnessed it up close and personal, is people with advanced dementia live in the moment, and your driving purpose as a human being does not go away when you get a dementia diagnosis. And I think that so many people forget that.
Absolutely.
And if in a moment of agitation or anxiety or being afraid or scared results in holding a baby doll and rocking it and calming down and bringing you peace, I mean, hey, sign me up. I don't have dementia.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all really came about. And after tons and tons of research, there are just a couple of studies that have been released here in the US around nursing home patients and the fact that they didn't have to use as much medication with them if they had dolls, and doll therapy was implemented. And so I really studied that. And then I got to work ordering baby dolls, because I don't know about you, your listeners, when I was a child and I wanted a baby doll, Mom took me to Toys R Us, or I looked in the Sears catalog and circled it, and we went and bought it. And there were rows and rows and aisles of dolls.
Yeah,
never
not
thought of
that world anymore. Yeah.
And so, if you go somewhere to buy a baby doll, it's usually Disney themed or Barbie themed or something like that. And so we ordered close to probably 40 dolls before I landed on the doll that I wanted to use for the project. If you Google dolls for dementia therapy, a million different things come up, and there's a lot of different options out there. I wasn't really pleased with what was out there, and so I kind of stepped outside the box and thought, what did Nanny love to cuddle? And that's what I need to find and recreate. And so that's what we did. And we also had to find something that was cost effective, because we're a nonprofit. And so, we can't take reborn baby dolls that are $160 and give hundreds and now thousands of them away. It just doesn't make sense. So finding the dolls was very hard. It took a long time, but we found them. And then the first time that we took some dolls in, I wound up standing in the corner crying like a mess of a puddle of tears, because it was like just presenting to Nanny all over again.
That's so amazing. Well, and so the baby
really
dolls,
grassroots organic thing, the way it came about.
I love how it's all worked out. And I know a couple of things. One, you started in Houston and now you're in Dallas, so you brought it here. And we'll talk a little more about other areas of the country where you are, reaching out. But I love one about the purpose, because I think people forget that even though you have dementia, it's just a human innate need to have a purpose. And people forget that. And I've also, and I'm sure you've run across, I've had some people say to me, oh, I don't want my mom or grandma holding a doll, that's just silly or whatever. And it's like, that's your reality. But if it's going to bring them peace and comfort and joy, why would you deny that? So I think that's so important not to let that get in your way of taking care of your family member. And then the other thing, back to the baby dolls, because I loved how you told me, in your research for a doll, you looked for one that had the, felt like a newborn in the weight of it. And I've held one of the babies, and it does feel like a newborn. It's very cuddly. I'm going to have to get my own baby.
And you can have a baby on board sign on your car. There you go.
Oh my gosh. And I do drive a minivan now. Oh my Lord. So that would be just perfect. Yeah. Put a little car seat in there. Just kidding. That would be a little far, but anyhow, but you talked about that, you looked at things like being able to wipe their faces and clean them. But so tell a little more about how you determined this baby and about, what you do when you receive the baby.
Yeah. So the babies that we use are, they do have weight to them. So we receive them and we unpack them. We order them in bulk, as you can imagine. We unpack them. They come in doll clothes. We strip the doll clothes off of them. They immediately get a newborn diaper on, and they get a newborn size clothing. So it was important to me, number one, I knew that, I think, most people that kind of work in our environment or that have had a relative in any type of community-based environment, you've seen someone carrying a baby doll around. And usually it's like a little lady in a wheelchair with this little doll, and it's one of those really hard plastic dolls. With my experience in assisted living and hospice and all of that, I knew that the dolls had to be very soft because of skin tears. Obviously, as seniors age, then their skin begins to thin. And so I knew that the silicone of the dolls had to be very soft, and I did not want like a hard plastic doll. I wanted a certain size, and believe it or not, our dolls are 20 inches long, and that is a very hard size to find.
Really?
Because most dolls are much smaller. They're like 14 inches. And so, we kind of played with that back and forth, and I went with a bigger doll, and primarily because seniors have poor eyesight.
True.
And I wanted them to have a big, cute face to stare at. And so I needed a doll that could be wiped down for sanitary purposes in the communities or in the home. And I did not want a doll with hair, because the hair always winds up matted and nasty. And as people with dementia, as the disease progresses, things begin to be put in the mouth. And some patients get very mouthy and become fascinated with putting things in their mouth. And so I didn't want hair on the dolls.
Yeah.
I did not want dolls that had eyes that blinked, because I remember having dolls as a child, and it didn't matter how expensive the doll was or how great the doll was. If the eyes blinked, over a matter of time, one eye was going to get stuck shut and one eye was going to get stuck open.
And it's winking at you, right?
Yeah. Now that's like it could lead to an obsessive behavior of picking at the eye. Right. And so I knew that's not going to work. And then I knew that the body of the doll had to be squishy. And so we finally found them, and they all are delivered with a brand newborn diaper on, just like a baby. And they have brand new clothes on, and the little girls have a big bow and the little boys have a hat. And I had one just this week, and I was in a community, and I had my back against the front door, and a gentleman walked in, and he came up and he was looking around me, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, is that a real baby?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. You tell me." And so they're very lifelike. The backs of their neck even have a little fat roll, like a little baby. Their heads are a little wobbly, and they've got little wrinkles on their feet and their hands. And so they absolutely are perceived to be real. No doubt.
You give a lot of thought to the clothing also.
A lot. People always ask us, can I donate clothing? And I always say, thank you, but no. It's super appreciated. But we actually handpick each outfit that we use. due to texture and touch, because as, again, dementia progresses, texture and touch become a heightened sense. And so that is why you'll often see people with more advanced dementia picking at their clothing or picking at their sheets, or they have just this restlessness about them. And so we always make sure that there's a soft texture and touch to the clothing. And I'm really careful about buttons. We don't use anything with a button, because if a button comes off, it can go in the mouth. And there's really a lot of thought and research that went behind the dolls. People sometimes will tell me, well, I'll just buy our own dolls. And I'm like, well, you can do that. I mean, sure. I mean, absolutely, you can do that. But there's a lot to consider. And there's a lot to take into account with the babies as well. So they're just cute and adorable. And I wanted a cheerful, chunky baby.
And that's what we got. So cute.
They're really hard. It was really hard to find a cheerful, chunky, fat-cheeked baby.
And you can get the babies in different ethnicities, which is important as well. So, and I just shared before this started that I want to get a baby to take around just to show people when I'm out marketing or in communities. And my kids are adopted, and I would love a little Asian baby girl. And my daughters can think I've lost my mind, but I think that would be absolutely adorable. And these, I feel like you have to see the babies. And because I had heard about the project, but once I saw one of the babies and held it, I'm like, this is like a real baby. I mean, it's very comforting. So, so I get it. And I appreciate all the work that you've done to find just the right doll.
And, you know, the all-inclusivity really came from my teenager, my daughter. She said, Mom, you've got to make sure that you're looking at dolls that span different ethnicities. And I was like, oh my God, you know, I was just excited to finally find the chunky, cute baby. And I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be harder than I thought, because now I have to find this doll in a Hispanic baby and an Asian baby and an Indian baby. And so we did it, though. We found them. They have different facial expressions, but we have them. So Caucasian, African American, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern. And so, you know, we covered the gamut. And,
that's awesome. You found them
boys
all.
And girls. So it's adorable. They're so cute. They're so cute.
That's amazing. So I know, okay, we mentioned that you started in Houston. You're now in Dallas. What other states have you brought the project to?
Several, actually. So I am from Houston originally, so that's obviously where the project was launched. And then I relocated to Dallas, so I brought it with me. But to launch the project, really all I need is a point person somewhere. So I get requests all the time, you know, from all different states now that the project's grown some. Can we bring it here? And I'm like, sure, you want to head it up? Because everything is done. And so I'm very blessed that we've got people in Florida and Kentucky, California, in a few places in California. We've got babies in Arizona. And so whenever someone reaches out about the project, and, you know, a lot of times a memory care place will reach out to me, I'll say, let's do it. And I'll kind of walk them through the process and kind of talk to them about the training that goes along with it and everything. And we don't turn down a request. If somebody wants a baby, we're going to get them a baby. If they need 10 babies, I've got 40 going out in 2 weeks to one place. So this is crunch time from October to December. We'll send out close to just 1,000 babies just in this time frame of the year. You know, we're always stocking our inventory. And it would be great to have babies shipped elsewhere. That's what I kind of laugh and tell. I call them delivery specialists. My delivery specialist, you know, in other states, I'm like, hey, I'm sending 25 to your address. Get ready. You know, you're going to have your boxes piled up on your porch. So
lots of babies.
Lots of babies. And it's simple. And I train my delivery specialists, you know, that are away from me. And I vet them really, really well to make sure that the integrity and the dignity of the project stays in my grandmother's honor.
What we didn't mention, and I do want to talk about this, is that obviously if someone is home caring for a family member with dementia, they can get a baby.
Absolutely.
But the other part of the project, which I absolutely love, is that the community, so like a memory care community, you will do, like, you get sponsors for the baby. So no one ever has to pay for the baby doll. It's
correct.
A community. Correct. So sponsors will, you know, sponsor a baby, and then you do training in the memory care. And then you have a baby shower to deliver the babies, which I think is so adorable. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the training to me is is critical, because if the staff does not understand the purpose of the doll or how to include the baby in different activities and different things like that, how to utilize the baby with different behaviors, the resident's never going to get the most benefit. The resident's just going to sit and hold the baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So all you've done is you've delivered some cute dolls in cute clothes. And so we have a pretty intensive training the staff goes through, and it's very engaging, lots of engagement and back and forth, and I make them hold babies. And for example, you are walking through the unit and you're holding a baby doll by its arm. That's going to upset a resident.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like really be in the presence of mind when you're carrying the babies. You need to carry the baby like a newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
And if a baby falls off the couch, that can upset someone.
Of course.
And so, you really have to consider a lot of different things. And then obviously introducing the babies during different types of behaviors and things like that. So for me, in the beginning, I didn't give a whole lot of thought to the training because I really was kind of like, you just give them the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I started revisiting where we had given babies, I was finding more and more that the babies were either in a closet or they weren't being utilized or it wasn't baby time. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what we wanted at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so back to the research, and so we developed the training, and once the caregiver staff is trained, they get a delivery specialist certificate that they're certified delivery specialists for the Grandbaby Project. And then we have a baby shower. So it's usually about a week apart. We'll have a baby shower because depending on how many caregivers or staff are in a community, we have to train in multiple sessions or whatever. But then we do the baby shower. So the baby shower is where the residents are presented with their baby. And if you go on our Facebook or you go on our website, you'll see tons of pictures and videos and just amazing kinds of things. So all I ask the community is that they decorate like they're having a baby shower.
Mm-hmm.
So it's use your imagination. The activity directors love it. I'm like, decorate, decorate, decorate. So it's a boy, it's a girl. And we do a lot of social media announcements leading up to the baby shower. And we'll say things like the grandbabies are coming
Mm-hmm.
at, Oxford Glen or, wherever, so that the community gets some recognition for implementing a whole new project. And it really is implementing a dementia doll therapy part of your project in memory
Mm-hmm.
care. And so the baby shower is so fun. We bring all the residents together in memory care. And I walk in, the sponsors come, and we have a few volunteers. The staff's already been trained how to present the babies, and so they're super helpful. And we present babies to residents. And we never force a baby on anyone. If a resident is a little kind of standoffish or, just kind of gives us an odd look or whatever and doesn't want to hold a baby, then that's fine. We let them participate. We don't push. But we leave a baby for them because tomorrow, when everybody has their babies, they're going to want a baby. And
I love that you do that. Yeah.
I
and
learned
then
that the hard way because I would get phone calls the next day. Can you bring 3 babies? Those people that didn't want them yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was driving everywhere around Houston delivering babies again a second time.
And you said even the men want a baby too.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the men.
Aww.
The men they just touch your heart.
Yeah.
So women go, innately and instinct. It's in our instinct to hold and bond and cuddle.
Mm-hmm.
And so the women will start to hold the babies very close to them or put them up on their shoulder to burp them. The nonverbal will start to hum and sing and make sounds with the baby. The men go in play mode. I mean, they are like trotty horse and patty cake
How cute.
and singing to them and, peekabooing, and they go immediately into play.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so cool to see the men, how they're interacting with their doll versus how the women are, because the women are very motherly and it's just our instinct, right?
Yeah.
And the men, they just want to play. They have a play buddy now and they love it. And they go to talking and talking and talking. Typically the men are a little more, I would say definitely a little more territorial over their baby than the women.
Really?
It's fascinating to me. Yes.
So interesting.
And it's very interesting. And, I tell communities, invite family members, and I try to speak if there's an upcoming family night. I'll try to speak at that family night or have one of our volunteers speak about what's to come and what the project means. And, I don't think a community would ever want, a family member walking in going, why are there all these dolls here? I didn't know we did doll therapy, And so it's a whole educational process, but the men are very, 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 very all about their babies. So typically we give women little girl dolls and men get little boy dolls. And so, they're dressed in a little baseball outfit and a little hat or something cute. And it's adorable. But, no one knows the residents like the staff. And I'll share a story with you. We were doing a baby shower, and I was very familiar with this particular memory care. And I was pretty familiar with their residents there. And there was this one gentleman, his very advanced dementia. He was not very verbal at the time, but he was always up and moving. I mean, he was moving, and he was fun to interact with. He still smiled and laughed. And so I knew going in that he would love his baby. I was like, oh, he's just going to love it. And so I gave him a little boy, and he took it from me, and there was just a flat affect. And I was just kind of like, well, that went over like a lead balloon. And so everybody else is enjoying their babies, and he's just kind of sitting there lost. And so I asked his caregiver, I said, I'm so surprised at his reaction. I just thought that he would love this. And her response to me was, well, I mean, you gave him a boy and he raised 4 girls.
Oh, my goodness.
I was like, oh, my God, grab him a baby girl. And he didn't know what to do with the boy. He was like,
yeah. And
so we gave him the girl, a baby girl, and everything changed. I mean, immediately, he was like, trying to say her name, one of his daughter's names. And it was just precious. It was amazing. We try to ask the communities about each resident. As we grow bigger and bigger, it's harder to get that specialized and customized. So have implemented into the training around, if you need to change out dolls or if we need to make some changes a week into programming, just reach out, let me know, and we'll do that so that residents will get the most benefit out of the baby.
I know one of the stories you had shared was there was a lady who was nonverbal, and she got her baby and she started singing Jesus Loves Me to the baby.
It's on our Facebook page. It is
so beautiful.
Unbelievable. And so what is so interesting about her is that we did that shower. I prefer to do baby showers around 10 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, because that is when residents are most alert. And this shower was actually much later in the day, and the residents were very tired. And it still wound up to be great, but I knew that we were going to have some that like they're ready to go to bed. They're sleepy. And she was in her wheelchair, dead asleep at the table. They brought everybody into like this little dining area, and then they were on their wheelchairs or chairs around the dining tables. And she had just fallen dead asleep, bless her heart. And so one of our volunteers went and just tapped her on the shoulder, and she kind of woke up and looked up at him, and he handed her the baby and started, would you like to hold the baby? And her eyes just lit up. And then one of our volunteers, he was actually singing like children's hymns. And so he started singing Jesus Loves Me. And she has the baby front and center, almost as close to her little face as she can get her. And she is singing Jesus Loves Me. And she's singing Jesus Loves the Little Children. And everybody is like, oh, she's really singing. Like, you can understand what she's saying. And it gives me chills. And so there's always moments in a baby shower where I'm always taken aback. And that was definitely one of the moments that day. All of us just kind of looked at each other and we just shake our head. It's just a God thing. I'm just like, thanks, Nanny. I know you did that. That was for you. And to see that now she has purpose and that she has her little baby. And now that baby goes with her everywhere she goes, and she has purpose to wake up every day. And we teach the staff how to work with different activities. We give them a lot of different activities that can be done in a group setting or in a one-on-one setting. For example, a patient with advanced dementia can take 30 minutes to change a newborn diaper. Yeah. Think of all the steps, and the baby's not moving. And people ask, do your babies make noise? And they do not. I didn't want babies that made noise. And,
no, that could freak someone out. Yeah,
I didn't want that. And so, different activities to keep them engaged, I think, is important. And so we usually take diapers too, extra diapers for everybody. And just to know that we've impacted her. I mean, things in her little world look very different now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole purpose of the project.
And with your training, I mean, so you're making sure, like you said, in the beginning, everyone was happy, got their doll, yay, and then the doll's kind of tossed aside. So in the training, you help them implement into like each day some doll therapy. So everyone is interacting with their dolls. So do they do like little circle time with the dolls, or it's just different types of activities?
Yeah, or I'll meet with the activity director and the executive director and say, let's take a look at your calendar and your programming throughout the day, and where can we make some adjustments, or where can we put in some doll time, and what does that look like? And typically communities are fabulous at navigating all of that, because their census or their population, their numbers of people that they have kind of can change day to day. People moving in, people moving out, people dying, and so I have a whole list of activities that can be done for the activity director to kind of work into her schedule. And so in communities, typically the day is very, very planned and pretty structured for the most part. So, like where they may sit around and do puzzles or something, I'll say, okay, this would be a great time to bring out the dolls. And, communities will ask me, do the dolls, should they go to bed and sleep with the residents, or should we have a place for them? And I leave that up to the community. A lot of communities, once they have the doll program, they will create a nursery.
That's so cute.
I love that. And my first thing to them is, well, if you don't have rocking chairs, you need to get rocking chairs. Like, you don't have to go buy a crib, but get rocking chairs, because there's going to be a lot of rocking going on. And it's just innate. It's just what we do. And so I typically will say, it's my preference, now that I'm much more educated in the field, that the babies go to sleep somewhere at night and not with the resident. And if the resident rolls over or has an accident or, anything like that, and you don't want the resident to wake up in the middle of the night and forget the baby is there and then remember, there's just all kinds of things. So I say that it's the community's preference. However, if they want to work, putting the babies down into their daily schedule, that it's a great exercise to do. So all the babies kind of go into their places. We're winding down for the night. We've had our dinner. Now it's time to get settled in for bed. We got to put the babies to bed. Everybody put the babies to bed. And so it can really just become part of just the daily routine, taking the babies outside. I'm like, get a stroller, get a wagon, put all the babies in the wagon, and let's go walk. For those that are, much more mobile. And, if I walk into a memory care and they're all just sitting in front of a TV in their wheelchairs, I'm like, any babies? They don't understand. They're just watching movement on a TV. I mean, let's have music time with babies,
Exactly.
So there's so many different things that you can do. But I think that is really the difference between just, dropping off cute dolls and this whole, I never dreamed that it would come and kind of develop into this whole programming, but it has. And so we actually even are working on finalizing the only dementia doll therapy CEU for nurses and social workers. And so doll therapy is just so new here. It doesn't exist. And so we'll have that at the beginning of next year.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you know what? I think it all comes back to what you said about purpose. If you have your doll and it's bedtime and everyone is getting their babies ready and getting them in the nursery, however they have that set up, that's just sort of also like cueing them that it's time for me to get ready for bed. So you don't have any kind of, issue, which sometimes you can have.
My grandmother would go 3 or 4 days and not sleep. I mean, insomnia is a real battle with some patients that have dementia. And I could walk into her room and look at the bags under her eyes and know that she hadn't slept in 3 or 4 nights, and she wouldn't sleep during the day. And so I was like, and I remember asking her doctor, how can she keep going? I don't understand. How does she just keep going and not just fall asleep? I mean, and he said, it's just a part of the mind. It just does not stop. And so those routines become really, really important. And so it was very helpful to tell her it was time to put the baby to bed, because that's any types of sleep medication or antipsychotic medication, anti-anxiety medication had a reverse effect on her. And so it didn't work. So things like Haldol or Seroquel that are used so often today, she couldn't use. I mean, she climbed the walls. And so we were really out on our own trying to figure out how can we get her to rest, even if it's just sitting and holding the baby. To us, those were moments of rest for her because she was so anxious all the time.
Would she fall asleep sometimes holding the baby? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, just that whole comfort. And then also, in the morning, getting the residents up, getting them ready, I could see where it'd be a huge benefit to say, good morning, we have to get you ready so you can go get your baby. And, do you have like bottles and stuff for the babies too?
So what's really interesting is usually some of our sponsors will say, can I donate bottles or pacifiers or, blankets or whatever? And I'm like, sure, bring it to the shower. And so, and a lot of times the community will start gathering those types of things in anticipation of the project. And there will be a point in the baby shower that we will say, okay, who wants to feed their baby? And we'll bring out like the basket of bottles. Aww. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's like, wow, they get so excited. And, their little hands are kind of going crazy. They're ready to feed the baby. So it's so sweet. It's so fun. And, there's always back to those family members who, aren't necessarily all bought in. There's always a family member or a couple at the shower that will say, they'll pull me aside and like, you're the project person. I'm like, yeah. And it's usually the daughters. No offense. I'm a daughter too. But they're like, I don't think that my mother is going to want to do this. And I don't really like the idea of her playing with a baby doll all day. And I just simply say, okay.
Yeah.
And I just say, can we try? Will you just let me try? And if you say no, that's fine.
Sure.
Because the daughter is not going to watch everybody else get a baby and her mom not. She's eventually going to get a train,
especially if her mom's like, I want a baby.
Yeah. And so I'll say, do you mind if I just try? And she'll say, yeah, usually it's even sons. Yeah, you can try, but my dad is not going to want that doll. And I'll say, okay. And it's all in, I think, the presentation. And so usually that son or that daughter is just kind of standing in the corner with their mouth wide open. Like they're like, I don't even know what to say. Like my mom hates children. I'm like, yeah, it's different. It's just different. It's so different. So I just say, let's try. And I also tell staff and families if someone purchases a doll for a loved one at home, and they get an instruction kit. If you purchase off the website, just one baby, I send you a whole instruction guidelines and things on how to introduce the baby and different activities that you can do at home with your loved one. I always say, if today they don't want the baby, reintroduce in tomorrow or a couple of days or a couple of weeks from now, because there will come a time they probably will want the baby.
Yeah.
And if it's not now, that's okay. That's fine. It's not earth shattering. But feel confident in reintroducing the baby. And typically I've never had someone, I'm sure it's happened, but I've never had someone reach back out to me and say they never wanted the baby. So, it's an individual thing, but usually they've become very, very attached to the baby. And at the shower, they get to name their baby.
Oh.
So it's very interesting because a lot of them will name them after their own children, of course, common. Depending on where they are in their stage of dementia, you may get you may get a name like Lori or Tonja or Cindy or Mary or Beth, or you may get Elephant. You didn't know. And so we just go with what we get, and we're like, oh my gosh, baby Mary is so beautiful. Tell me about her. And then they'll start, pointing to their eyes. And some of our little babies have teeth that are coming in, and they'll say, she's getting her teeth. Did you see she got her teeth? And they just go right into it. There's no prompting whatsoever. They just go right into mommy mode or daddy mode.
There's one, I think you were telling me, where the lady was presented with her baby and she's like, I've been waiting for you.
I've been waiting for you.
Oh, my heart.
I've been waiting for you. Yeah. I've been waiting for you. It gives me chills. Yeah. Or people will start saying, thank you, God. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm a wreck in the corner. Like,
oh, I bet. So, yeah, I would be bawling.
And I'm like, hey, get it together. One of the neatest, and the pictures are I think they're on Facebook, but one of my favorite stories I'll share. We went into a memory care unit with about 25 people. And when you're delivering 25 babies, you need a lot of help because we do it very one-on-one. And so there can be a lot of commotion. And so I walked in, and there were these two ladies sitting beside each other on this very, very small love seat. And one of the caregivers looked up at me and noticed we were kind of getting ready to start. And she says, wait, we have to separate them. We have to separate them. And I didn't understand. I was like, I'm looking around like, what's happening? And I'm like, what? And she said, those two ladies, they can't be together. They fight, they scratch each other and they bite.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh gosh. And so I just instinctively, I guess I just grabbed a baby and another volunteer grabbed a baby and we gave them babies. It was like, I'd like to hold the baby. And we just gently place babies in their arms. And no kidding, for easily 30 minutes, the whole time, 30 to 45 minutes, the shower's going on. These two ladies who are nonverbal are sitting with their babies, trying to talk to each other in their garbly spaghetti talk about their babies. The caregivers in the community were blown away. They were like, they can never be together because they fight. They fight over everything. And the executive director came in and she was just shocked. And I said, you guys need videos and pictures of this to show their families. And I just kind of stood back and I was like, they looked like two new moms sitting on a park bench comparing their newborns.
That's so beautiful.
I mean, and they were just like, eye and nose and they would, touch each other's baby and like kiss each other's baby. And I mean, we were blown away, but it just took them both back to a time of they had their little babies and they were so proud of them. And, they were like pointing to their little bows on their hairs, two little girls. And it's so sweet. And to think that in that moment, had we not intercepted that very moment, those two ladies would have could have injured each other, or
just one got a baby and the other didn't, so they got them at the same time.
It could have just resulted in another fight between them. And now they're like just two moms with babies.
And I think it's interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it just takes you back to those memories, which are obviously like very strong, positive memories for most moms. I mean, for myself, that's like my favorite time is when my kids were little. So it just takes you right back to that. And those emotions and feelings and everything just come back, just like you're a new mom again.
And sometimes people will say, caregivers will say, I don't know if Miss So-and-so will want a baby. She never had children. I'm like, okay, well, we just try. We just try with everybody.
Sure.
And, or I have had, we did have one lady, there's always someone, and I don't know why, it's so crazy to me. There's always someone, and it can be a man or a woman, that wants two. There's always someone who wants two babies. And so we bring extra, because we know that someone's going to want two. We had a lady and she wanted two. And so the staff was like, oh no, you can't have two. And I'm like, yes, we bring clinic. She can have two. She wanted a boy and a girl. Give her a boy and a girl. Give her what she wants. And so she named them after her own kids. And I don't remember the little girl's name, but I very specifically remember the little boy was Jack. And her children, both, her son died in Vietnam, and her daughter was killed in a car accident. I learned this much later. I didn't know.
Oh my gosh, I have chills.
She had very tragic losses of her children.
Yeah.
And she was so happy that day. It was like she'd been handed these newborns.
Oh my gosh. Did she name them after her kids?
Yes. She named them. And I was a little taken aback because I thought, is this going to be a negative?
Yeah.
Oh no. She loves her babies. Yeah. And so it was so uplifting to me because several weeks later, the community posted some pictures of residents being outside, doing an outside activity or sitting outside enjoying the weather or whatever. And she had both of her babies with her. And I was like, that's when I know that the community is really taking the project serious because, I'll see pictures of, especially this summer. So I was online and I saw a picture of one of the communities we had the project at, and there's the residents were outside eating watermelon, and the babies were out there with them, and I was like, oh, they took their babies to eat watermelon this afternoon, and it's just pretty amazing. And I'll tell you, it's interesting too. Doctors are blown away by it because a lot of times there are several times the communities will have their doctor rounding or their nurse practitioner rounding, and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, look, I've got studies and I'll send you.
Yeah.
And doctors will say, I would love to have a baby for my office, just to have in the waiting room that says, with a QR code, learn about dementia doll therapy because doctors are very regulated with medication these days and what they can prescribe and what they can't prescribe. And so you're starting to see more and more therapeutic things come into the dementia world that we've used with kids that are becoming more and more popular. And so I think that dementia doll therapy will gain a lot of momentum. I never say never. I have walked into some communities that have their own dementia programming and they don't use dolls. I'll just leave it at they don't they're of the other mindset, which is fine because as long as residents have purpose, there's a million ways to give someone purpose.
Exactly.
And so it's not that they're right or wrong, it's just a different way of doing it.
But be doing something. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And normally 9 times out of 10, people are like, how do we get this? How soon? And so the only thing that slows us down is getting the bulk quantity of dolls. I mean, we will be at a point in a very short while that we'll have to order containers. I can't even imagine like a container of, 1,000 babies at a time.
Are they delivered to your house?
Yes.
Oh
so
gosh.
they are. My neighbors are like, the dolls came today. So I drive up and my poor Amazon guys and they're just, or UPS, they're just like, oh dear Lord. The UPS guy, he's like, Tonja. I'm like, I know there's more coming. I'm sorry. And then, I'll have them delivered to other delivery specialists too. So the Houston dolls go to Houston, Dallas come to me, and in other states they go to other places. But we do a lot in the Dallas area. I mean, we've put a lot of babies out just since May. It's unbelievable to me. We launched in Dallas in May, in the Dallas and Fort Worth, North Texas area.
That's amazing. Well, and I know I saw it online, and then I saw someone at a networking meeting, Mary Greer, who carries her baby around, and she's named and was in a cute little Halloween costume. So
we always dress them for the season.
Yes.
And so baby showers in December are fun because all the babies are dressed in Christmas little outfits. And I always try to get the community to find someone to dress up like Santa Claus to join us at the baby showers. And so, that's just so memorable. I mean, it's so cute.
Question, like, how much do the babies cost?
Yeah. So if you are one of our sponsors at one of our events, so whenever the way that it kind of works is once a community expresses interest and a community can find out about us in a million different ways, either online or through people like you or people, that are in and out of communities, whatever. So we do a lot of networking for the nonprofit. So communities can find out about us in a lot of different ways. And once I connect with the community, and they're vetted and kind of figure out, okay, we want to do this, we want to move forward, I start asking the community, who are some of your favorite vendors that you work with from a healthcare perspective? Who's your hospice company? Who's your home health? Who is, who does what for you? And would you like them to participate? And the answer is always yes. So we start reaching out to those vendors, basically, those other healthcare people. And we say, would you like to sponsor a doll? You can sponsor 1 or 10 for this upcoming baby shower. And they learn about the project. And sometimes they'll buy 1 or 2 or however many. And so if we're doing bulk deliveries, the sponsorship costs are very low. I mean, it's between $40 and $50 a doll. I mean, it's very low. And so if you just go online and a single person in, Tempe, Arizona wants a doll, there are several different classes that you can choose from. And when I say classes, I mean, you can figure out how much information and training you want with your doll, and they're priced. So when we're delivering 30 and 40 at a time and we're using sponsors, the costs are much lower than if just one person is buying a doll and we're shipping it, 'cause we're paying for shipping and we're paying for all of this follow-up that we're doing with them and all of that good kind of stuff. So, but the bottom line is we never say no. We try to never say no. I get requests, and I get emails a lot that say we can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so we are always fundraising. And so we always fundraise for those situations because we're just not going to tell someone no. And I'm a pushover. Like I want everybody. If I get, if I hear of someone or that is someplace or like a skilled nursing facility that has a lot of memory care people in Medicaid beds and there's no budget, there's nothing, then we intercept and we make sure, and I get sponsors and get to work and we make sure that those folks get babies.
That's wonderful. And I know this project truly speaks to my heart because my grandmother had dementia, and and just working in senior living so long. And I know when we talked earlier, I really want to help you grow this on my side. In Dallas is huge. So where I am in Dallas, I want to really help you to grow this and start talking about it. So like I said, I'm going to get my own baby and start bringing her around and introducing the project.
Absolutely.
But for people to learn more about it, can you give us your website? Like, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah. So our website is www.thegrandbabyproject.org, because we're a nonprofit.org. And then on Facebook, we're huge on Facebook and Instagram, of course. It's just the Grandbaby Project. You can look us up.
And cute pictures and videos.
Yeah. And we're on LinkedIn. So we pretty much have social media covered. And then to reach me, so I get tons of emails. You can just send an email to thegrandbabyproject@gmail.com, and that comes directly to me. Everything through the website comes through me. Facebook, I've got some moderators, but you'll wind up with me.
Yeah. So
if anybody wants to help sponsor an event, donate to the cause, you can do all of that online. You can email me. There's a bunch of different ways. We try to make it as simple and easy as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I know you do too, but I would love to see this project grow throughout our entire country. And this podcast goes through the whole U.S. So if you're listening, please reach out and get this started in your area.
I would love that. I would love for it to grow and for it to become a really big opportunity for people that truly suffer. I mean, the disease is sufferable. And the project, we're very blessed to be backed by the Dementia Society of America. And they are a great organization that people should check out too. They were founded by a husband whose wife had early onset dementia, but she did not have Alzheimer's. And so people automatically think if you have dementia, you have Alzheimer's and vice versa. And that's not true. And so there are a lot of different types of dementia. Sometimes people will say, well, my mom doesn't have Alzheimer's, so I don't think that she would like a doll. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's not true. Yeah. So, don't let that stop you. But we're going into gift giving season. So it's National Giving Tuesday is November 28th. And you'll see all about it online, and you'll see things on our website and everything about Giving Tuesday. And, I tell people you can give any amount helps, because, I had a little lady, you tell me I can only give you like $5 or $6. And I was like, do you know how many diapers that is? Like, that's so appreciated.
Yeah.
It is. It's so
helps.
appreciated. Right. Absolutely.
And this is your big fundraiser. You do other fundraisers also throughout the year?
We do all kinds of fun things. So anyone who's out there who is in marketing in the world of senior care, there's so many fun outside marketing events you can do. So we've done things like bubbles and babies, champagne tasting, and dressed all the babies beautifully so that people can hold the babies, and, done champagne tasting, and people have donated. Or we'll like do a silent auction of dolls dressed beautifully, and people can buy them. And so we do a lot of different things throughout the year, small events and big events. We've got some Kendra Scott things coming up. They love the project. Yeah. So great. Kendra Scott has a big Kendra Gives Back campaign where you can go into a store and a percentage goes back to nonprofit. We've got that going on in Houston soon. So, we're open to doing just about anything to raise money for babies.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think it's important that you have people in healthcare that come and they actually hold a baby and they really understand, because I think that makes a big difference. Because, I was learning about the project, but I'm like, not until I actually saw a baby in person and held it, I'm like, okay, yes, I get it. This
now
really does feel like a baby.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you really have to hold the baby, see the baby, feel the baby, and feel that diaper underneath the little outfit. It just makes a difference. It just makes a total difference. And when I'm out and about with the baby, and if I just walk into a community, usually the receptionist is like, they'll take the baby immediately, and they'll start, like swaying with the baby or rocking with the baby.
Natural thing.
It's just an automatic thing that we do. And so it's really a passion project. And I think my grandmother would be really happy and really proud. And, I see her every time we do a baby shower or we do an event, or I get news that we've done an event in another city or something, another state. It's exciting. And it's something that you can do. I mean, when you really think about changing someone's life, It sounds crazy, and you think that this little doll could do that for someone that's living in a time that is so agitating, so confusing, so difficult for them, just those little moments of peace. And I think another reason communities love the project so much is because it buys caregivers time.
Yeah.
You know, COVID has changed healthcare, and it has changed everything in senior care for sure. And we've not ever truly bounced back from a staffing perspective. So healthcare was never truly ultimately staffed fully ever. And now it's even more difficult. So for a caregiver to be able to have a resident sit with a doll for just 5 or 6 minutes gives them the opportunity to go check on someone else, and gives them the opportunity to give some attention to another resident while this one over here is safe. And
if you have people and if they are not agitated, you're buying time that way too, because the time spent trying to calm someone who's very agitated and anxious. Right. And, I also like the perspective of not having to drug people up and medicate them. I mean, if there's another way to do it without having them medicated, I think that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keeping them kind of in the present. And the one thing that is so important about our clothing is like the touch and the feel are so important, because it keeps the resident or the person engaged. And so if it didn't feel good, the person would not be engaged. And so literally every little outfit, I mean, we're touching it, we're feeling it. And we did a little round. We went through a little phase where a lot of our baby girls went out with leggings and tutus. And oh my goodness, the ladies loved them. And they would just, run their fingers across the little tutus. And I thought, because I was like, I'm not sure how the texture will be, but they loved it. And so family members will call and they'll go, well, what kind of clothes should I buy? And I'm like, well, if you've got a little girl, find a tutu, because that's one thing that they love. Velvety, anything soft or velvety.
And just newborn size.
Newborn size.
Yep.
Newborn size. Yeah. Newborn size.
Wonderful.
So, and we purposefully put them in newborn baby clothes because real babies don't wear doll clothes. So, our babies don't wear doll clothes.
That's a real baby.
And they are so lifelike that I have been yelled at in the Target parking lot by another woman who thought I was actually leaving my baby in the car in the middle of summer. And I'm just like, it's a doll. And I had to literally get the doll out and show her. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was like, she's leaving this baby in this car. So now my baby's in the back seat was covered up with a blanket.
Yeah, cover the baby up.
Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful. I love this project, and you are just so honoring your grandmother by doing this. It's absolutely beautiful. And we'll share all the information as well. How people can reach out and be a part of this. And I hope your inbox just fills up with people all over the country wanting to be a part of this, because it's so important. So thank you so much, Tonja. I just appreciate you coming on and sharing all your information.
Oh, I'm delighted. And I would love nothing more than to get babies in more arms. That's our goal. So Thank you. We appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you all for listening today. Be sure to go to our website, which is loriwilliams-seniorservices.com, and you can find more. We'll have more information there. And also on our social media, we'll be posting a lot of dolls and more information throughout the week so that you can learn more about the project. So be sure and share this with your friends and families, and tune in next week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.